Welcome back to Alien Love Stories, where bringing someone home to meet your mom might accidentally start a galactic war. Let me just say this up front. I didn't mean to start an interplanetary power struggle. I just thought we were going to have lasagna and maybe watch a documentary about frogs. That was it. But no, because when your girlfriend is from a planet where royal bloodlines are determined by aura resonance and afternoon tea is considered a formal state ceremony, nothing is just dinner. Her name is Zyrella. Species, unknown to Earth's taxonomies. Hair like someone captured moonlight and braided it. Eyes dark as a nebula on a rainy night. Yes, somehow both at once. She's brilliant, terrifying, hilarious, and extremely committed to protocol. I'd been dating her for 3 months. We'd survived 3 temporal anomalies, 2 false vacuum collapses, and 1 bad karaoke night on Titan. So I thought it was time. To introduce her to Mom. Now let's talk about Mom. Marjorie Eleanor Stone, 56, retired kindergarten teacher. Deadly with crossword puzzles, makes killer lasagna, wears matching house slippers like it's a moral stance. She is not, by any reasonable stretch of the imagination, a queen. So you can imagine my confusion when, 15 seconds after we walked into the living room, this happened. Zyrella dropped to one knee, placed her hands over her chest and said, in perfect, rehearsed English, "Your radiance, I offer my life in loyal reverence and binding love." Mom, mid-slice of mozzarella, blinked, then looked at me. Did she just call me radiant? I was frozen, like actual mental blue screen. Zyrella remained kneeling. Then she reached into her sleeve, pulled out a tiny glowing stone, and placed it carefully on Mom's coffee table. The stone hummed, and then it spoke. Royalty detected, Earth Sovereign confirmed, initiating House Allegiance protocol. Mom leaned in, squinted. Is that Alexa? Zyrella looked up reverently. That is the Chorus Stone of Recognition. It only activates in the presence of a planetary matriarch. I choked. Wait. Planetary what? Zyrella turned to me, serene as a sunset on a gas giant. You never told me your mother ruled this territory. I assumed you were humble. Mom laughed. Oh no, sweetie. I run a garden club. Our most radical act was switching to decaf. Zyrella stood up slowly, with elegance that made gravity seem optional. That is what makes you so powerful. And that's when the curtains fluttered, the lights blinked, and somewhere in space, far away, a beacon flared to life. A royal vow had been made, and the galaxy was watching. I pulled Zyrella aside. Okay, I think there's been a misunderstanding. She tilted her head. Why are you whispering? We're in the presence of the crown. She's not a queen, Zyrella. She teaches knitting at the senior center. She commands the wisdom of the elders. She radiates poise. Her lasagna smells weaponized. What else would she be? To be fair, the dining table did look kind of regal. Mom had lit candles, used the good plates, wore that maroon cardigan that makes her look like a British general. Still, this question mark felt like too much. Zyrella sat upright through dinner, did not touch her fork until Mom took the first bite, matched Mom's tea-drinking rhythm sip for sip, and every time Mom spoke, whether it was about grocery store coupons or the neighbor's dog, Zyrella nodded like she was receiving sacred scripture. I tried to diffuse it. I think there's been a little cultural mix-up, babe. She held up a finger. Not now. The matriarch is explaining the rituals of the bargain bin economy. I must memorize this. After dessert, which she called the sweet offering of transition, Zyrella excused herself, stepped into the backyard and pulled out a communication device the size of a grapefruit. I followed. Zyrella, seriously, you're not pledging fealty to anything, right? She turned, eyes bright. Too late. The vow has been made. The council has been notified. I am now in line for succession, should Her Majesty abdicate. My soul left my body. You what? Don't worry, it's a long line, likely no more than a few thousand contenders. We will only be challenged by 12 to 15 planetary clans. She smiled like she'd just booked us a couple's massage. I staggered back into the house. Mom was pouring herself tea. Honey, does your girlfriend always kneel like that? I stared at her, then said, we might need more lasagna and a throne. You know that feeling when you just want to digest lasagna in peace, but instead you get caught in a galactic diplomatic incident? Yeah, that. It started subtly, a low hum in the air. Then the spoons on the kitchen counter rose, like vertically, and then aligned themselves into the shape of a crown. Mom looked up from her crossword. Oh, is this another one of those TikTok pranks? Zyrella, stone-faced, bowed her head. The council has acknowledged your radiance. The signals are aligning. Succession recognition protocol has begun. I was still holding a sponge, covered in dish soap, emotionally unprepared, and spatially unqualified. Then it happened, a faint shimmer in the center of the kitchen, like heat waves mixed with glitter. And then, poof, a scroll appeared. Yes, a literal scroll, made of something that looked like starlight and ancient bark. It hovered midair, glowed softly, and unrolled with a regal hum. I grabbed it. The letters rearranged themselves into English. Bold at the top, to the offspring of her radiance, immediate summons. Below that, your bloodline has entered the crown zone. Your presence is required at the council chamber of succession negotiations. Delay is considered declaration of abdication. Dress code, optional. Emotional readiness, mandatory. I blinked. Did this scroll just give me an RSVP to space? Zyrella nodded. You're now technically third in line to the Western Galactic seat, unless one of your siblings ascends first. I don't have siblings. All the more reason to prepare. Bloodlines like yours tend to surprise. Just then, our television turned on by itself, switched from the Weather Channel to a live feed of the Galactic Succession Senate. I recognized none of it. Floating orbs, creatures made of cloud and coral. A sentient violin was giving a speech. The subtitles read, "The Earth Mother has spoken. The claim has been received. We await her champion." Mom peeked in. Oh, is this one of those space soap operas? Zyrella turned reverently. No, Majesty, that is you. They are waiting for your heir. Mom froze, held up her teacup, then said, should I change into something sparkly? I sat down, hard. The scroll thudded onto my lap. I stared at the words like they'd bite me. Zyrella, I said slowly, I think you've activated something dangerous. She frowned. I simply followed protocol. I pledged allegiance to the maternal sovereign. That's page 1 of interspecies courtship etiquette. I pinched my nose. And what exactly does third in line mean? If she abdicates or transcends to higher sovereignty, or is consumed by ceremonial flame, you become the acting heart heir. I turned to Mom. Please don't transcend or catch ceremonial fire. She waved a hand. Not today, hon. I have water aerobics at 6. I stood, walked back and forth. This is insane. I'm not royalty. You're not royalty. This is a mix-up. Zyrella approached. That's the beauty of monarchy, Liam. You don't get to decide. The system chooses based on truth. Truth, she gestured toward Mom. She walks with dignity, commands presence, feeds with wisdom. Her lasagna invoked ancestral resonance. I turned to Mom. What did you put in that lasagna? She shrugged. Basil, love. Oh, and I've been growing thyme that glows a little in the dark. That did it. I slumped to the floor. The scroll gently bopped my forehead. The TV flashed again, now showing a countdown. Council assembly in 17 galactic minutes. Zyrella kneeled beside me. Don't be afraid. The council can be intimidating, but they respect authenticity. Just speak your truth. I looked up. My truth is, I'm 28, allergic to kiwi, and once cried watching a detergent commercial. She smiled. Then lead with that. Mom walked in with a tray of lemon cookies. I made snacks. Zyrella bowed. The Queen provides. All shall be well. And that's how I found myself 1 hour later in a hoverpod hurtling toward a floating citadel in the Carrion Expanse, wearing my high school graduation suit, with a cookie in one hand and a ceremonial O-stone in the other, about to defend my family name in a war I didn't start. over a misunderstanding of maternal fashion sense. The citadel was floating. That was the first thing I noticed. Not orbiting, floating. Above nothing, below everything. Suspended in some kind of gravitational argument with the universe. We docked. Walked into a chamber shaped like a Mobius strip had a baby with an opera house. Creatures gathered in concentric circles. Some shimmered, some hovered. One was made entirely of triangles and sneeze clouds. At the center was the council podium, and behind it, a glowing emblem, the Order of the Triplanetary Crown. Below that, truth, duty, fashion. I was already sweating. Zyrella stood tall beside me, radiant, poised, apparently immune to panic. I, on the other hand, was mentally Googling how to politely decline galactic monarchy. Then a being floated forward, shaped like a jellyfish that had gotten a PhD in bureaucracy. "The candidate has arrived," it buzzed. I raised a hand. "Hi, candidate for throne, succession, tri-alliance unification." Zyrella leaned in, whispering, "You're now registered as heir Liam of House Earth under Section 7, Clause 8 of the Royal Entwinement Charter." I blinked. "I thought we were dating, not merging planets." She smiled. "Interspecies love is policy." The council turned toward me. One delegate, a crustacean with 6 monocles, croaked, "Does the heir confirm his emotional bond with the daughter of Virelian flame?" I squinted. "You mean Zyrella?" The glimmering she. "Yes." I looked at her. She nodded, eyes hopeful. I took a breath. Yes, I like her. A lot. She's brilliant, terrifying, weirdly into baked potatoes." A few murmurs of approval rose. "And I'd like to keep dating her. You know, like romantically with snacks." The council hummed, literally. A chime passed through the room like a massive tuning fork had been struck. Then the jellyfish judge announced, "Bond confirmed. Title bestowed. Let the coronation trial preparations commence." I froze. Wait. Coronation?" Zyrella clapped softly. "Only symbolic, mostly pageantry and a quiz." "A quiz?" "Yes, on planetary ethics, cuisine, and," she lowered her voice, "fertility customs." I gagged. One delegate flapped forward, a bird-like being in velvet robes. "On behalf of the Moon Chorus of Valari Prime, we bestow upon heir Liam our sacred sash of successional acknowledgement." They draped a glittering piece of fabric across my shoulders. It sparkled aggressively. It also sang, very softly. I was being harmonized by an article of clothing. Another stepped up, a sentient rock with limbs. "From the crust territories of Zolth, we offer you the ritual pudding of acceptable despair." A glowing cube was handed to me. It jiggled ominously. I nodded politely. "Thanks." At some point, a very large slug slid over and pressed its forehead to mine. "This is our formal gesture of alliance and mucus." I whispered to Zyrella, "Please tell me this is reversible." She smiled brightly. "We're past that now." Finally, the council returned to their podium. One elder being, a massive translucent sphere, spoke. "The line of succession is now thus. Her Radiance, Marjorie of Earth. Prince Liam of the line. His future issue, biological or adopted, the house cat, if applicable." I nearly choked. "You added my cat to the royal succession?" Zyrella nodded, serious. He stared down a representative from Larthak the Third once. "Very impressive." The final decree glowed in midair. "The war of succession is now stayed. The claim has been honored. Long may he date." A dozen horns blasted. One trumpet folded into itself. Confetti fell. A marching band made entirely of sentient flutes began playing an upbeat tune called Ode to Romantic Stability. I stood there stunned, covered in sparkles, holding pudding, sash humming softly. I whispered, "I just wanted to show her where I used to play soccer." Zyrella took my hand. "And instead, you're going to rule a third of the galaxy." I sighed. "Does this mean I have to buy a tie?" "Number. But you'll need to survive the diplomatic poetry duel next week." Say what now?" "You know what they don't tell you about becoming an heir to 3 planets? The paperwork. Number the visitors. They started arriving at 8:03 a.m. I know this because I was in boxers and socks holding a bagel, and suddenly the lawn lit up like a Pink Floyd concert. First came the delegation from Valeri Prime, 7 tall, crystalline beings with faces that refracted sunlight into Morse code. They bowed in sequence, then placed an offering at the front step. We bring the orb of constant listening. It was a glowing ball with one enormous floating ear. I stared at it. It whispered, "Nice haircut." Then came the emissaries from Yen Tarth, a species of sentient fog who wore vests made of woven sound. They hovered in the hallway and asked, "Where is the Supreme Matron?" I yelled into the kitchen, "Mom, more space fog people want cookies." She peeked around the corner, apron on, flour on her nose. "Oh, sure, hun. Tell them I just made lemon scones." Somewhere in the living room, a delegation from Zentaur Cluster began singing. It was their formal method of diplomacy. Problem is, they only sang in reverse harmonic tension, which meant every note felt like a musical panic attack. Mom served them mint tea and nodded along, whispering, "Sounds like jazz fusion. I like it." I tried to explain what was happening. "Mom, these aren't tourists. These are ambassadors." She raised an eyebrow. "Well, ambassadors need carbs too. Want me to warm the cinnamon rolls?" I turned to Zyrella. "You could have warned me we were opening the Galactic Embassy in my house." She nodded calm. "This is standard. Once an heir is confirmed, the sovereign home becomes the seat of accord. It's very symbolic." Symbolic of what? Hospitality, fertility, emotional availability. "Why is everything about emotions?" She smiled. "You're the heir of heart. That's your official title." Meanwhile, 2 6-armed warriors from the Dune Bone Accord knelt before our dishwasher. Why? Because it had chrome accents and emitted a soft hum. They mistook it for a divine purification portal. They offered it a sword. Now the dishwasher has a ceremonial dagger inside it next to the spoons. I walked into the dining room, found Mom hosting a tea and peace circle with delegates from 7 planets, a singing rock, and 1 AI core in a teacup. She was asking them to list 3 things they're grateful for before sipping, and they were doing it earnestly. One said, "I'm grateful for hydrogen clouds, low-gravity naps, and Her Majesty's lemon zest technique." I pulled Zyrella aside. "This is out of control. They're treating her like a stabilizing monarchical axis." "Yes, that's correct." "No, I mean, like she's the emotional center of the sector." Zyrella blinked. "Well, she is, Liam. She has a kind aura. Her boundaries are firm. Her muffins are moist. That's rare." Just then, the Grand Diplomat of Vakhtari entered, dressed in robes made entirely of recycled moonlight. He approached Mom. "I come bearing the golden chalice of future unions." He placed a cup on the table, then knelt. "May I ask for a recipe for peace?" Mom blinked. "Oh, I can write it down. Do you want it with or without nutmeg?" He bowed deeper. "Nutmeg shall guide us." I sat on the stairs, head in hands, overwhelmed. I was supposed to have coffee with Kyle from work today. Instead, I was watching my mother give intergalactic advice over biscotti. Zyrella joined me, sat beside me, took my hand. "You're doing well." "I haven't done anything." "Exactly. You're not resisting. That's strength." "Is it? Also, you vacuumed." That impressed the Bone Accord deeply. Just then, the TV turned on. Again, broadcasting the Galaxy Unity channel. A news anchor with 6 eyes and an origami head appeared. "Breaking, Earth Matron Marjorie hosts Peace Summit with 7 systems. She served cookies. Galactic morale at all-time high." Mom walked by with a tray. "Liam, do we have more napkins? The frog lobsters are a bit drippy." I nodded. "Yeah, cabinet over the sink. And don't let the singing chair eat the forks." She gave a thumbs up. And that's how my living room became a treaty hall. My kitchen, a sanctuary. And my mom, an icon. All because she was kind and made good tea. It began during biscotti. Again, I should have learned by now. Never trust peace that arrives with dessert. The doorbell rang, except it wasn't a bell. It was more like a deep chime that resonated through my teeth. The room froze. The pudding orb stopped vibrating. Even the orb of constant listening whispered, "Uh-oh." Zyrella stood, went pale, which was weird because her skin is usually a gentle blue-violet shimmer. "No." "Who?" I asked. She didn't answer. She didn't need to, because the front door opened by itself, and in stepped him, tall, perfect posture, eyes like burning gold, hair like the exact style I wish I could pull off but can't, voice like melted bass, smile like danger wrapped in politeness. He bowed with theatrical flair. "Greetings, House of Earth. I am Calix Vornai of Narthaxis, firstborn of the Veiled Dynasty, champion of the Shadow Moons, and the rightful fiancé of Zyrella of Virelia." Mom peeked from the kitchen holding a teacup. "Oh dear." I stood up slowly, very slowly. "Fiancé?" Zyrella stepped forward, eyes blazing. "Ex-fiancé." Calix raised an eyebrow. "A technicality. The rites were interrupted, not annulled. I lit your ceremonial cloak on fire." A passionate gesture, one I cherished. He turned to me, smiled, and then changed. His face shifted slightly, subtle at first, but then it became obvious. His jawline reshaped, his hair softened. His eyes took on the exact shade of green Zyrella once told me she liked. He was morphing into me, but idealized, I gasped. You're doing the thing, aren't you?" Zyrella growled. "He's a Narthaxian mirage type. They adapt their form to match what their rival most fears losing." I looked at him again and realized he wasn't just becoming me, he was becoming the me I always thought I should be. Confident, flawless, unbothered. Calix turned to the council guests. "Is this truly the best candidate for a galactic alliance? A Terran youth with soft hands and emotional availability?" He said it like a curse. The bird delegation fluffed up nervously. The bone accord murmured. Even the pudding cube quivered in awkward silence. I took a deep breath, stepped forward. "No offense, Sparkles, but I'm not here to outshine you. I'm just showing up." Calix smirked. "How noble, how mortal." He turned to Zyrella. "You still have time. Join me, and together we can lead the unified dark houses. You will not be the queen of a teacup empire." She stepped forward, calm, strong. "You never saw me as more than a crown asset. Liam sees me." Period, or a bright pulse lit up in her chest. A Virelian soul flare, symbol of chosen bond. It flared gold, then shifted to the deepest hue of trust. Violet core. The council gasped. The orb of constant listening whispered, "Oh, he in trouble." Calix's smile faded. The room held its breath. He gave one final bow. "Very well, enjoy your tea, but remember, succession is rarely linear." He turned, faded, literally, like shadow pulled back into shadow. I exhaled, hard. My legs were shaking. I looked at Zyrella. "You okay?" She nodded, then looked at me. Eyes soft, voice clear. "Are you?" I considered, then grinned. "I still have pudding in my hand. So yeah, I think I won." The council applauded, in their own ways. The AI clapped with data packets. The singing rock hummed Eye of the Tiger. Mom brought out brownies, and the orb whispered, "He may not be perfect, but he stayed. That counts." Let's get one thing straight. My mom did not ask for any of this. She likes baking, and bird feeders, and telling people that pineapple belongs on pizza if your heart says so. She is not a politician. She is not royalty. She is a retired kindergarten teacher with very strong opinions about iced tea. So when she walked into the council hall the next morning and said, "I'd like to decline the position of queen," it did not go over well. The council gasped. The bird delegation collectively molted in distress. The singing rock let out a sharp B-flat of panic. One ambassador floated forward, a jelly being in shimmering bureaucratic robes. "I beg your non-majesty's reconsideration. Per Article 14A of the succession spiral, the sovereign cannot self-deactivate." Mom blinked. "I'm sorry, the what now?" Zyrella stepped up, whispered, "Once identified, a sovereign can't resign." She must be politely overthrown, ritually dissolved, or galactically defeated in honorable contest. Mom blinked again. Well, those all sound unpleasant. Another delegate raised a tentacle. May I propose the trial of assertion, wherein the sovereign faces a challenger in combat, either verbal or interpretive dance? Mom raised a hand. No, thank you. My hip's been acting up. I stepped forward. She doesn't want to rule. She just wants to prune the tomatoes and occasionally spoil her adult son with Tupperware. The council hummed. They did that when they were confused. A sentient mist cloud hovered over Mom. The aura scan confirms. She radiates leadership, empathy, and unshakable boundaries. She is perfect. Mom shook her head. Flattering, but no. And then a new voice entered, low, commanding. Very, Mom, she doesn't have to rule. We all turned. A tall figure stood at the back of the hall, wearing a long scarf made of starlight in disappointment. She stepped forward. I am Elder Matron Zyrella Janith of Valtor Prime, and I led my planetary sector for 65 solar rotations. She looked directly at Mom. Sometimes it takes another mother to say, enough. The room fell still. Zyrella continued. We have made monarchy a trap. We hold up kindness, then punish those who wish to live it simply. She raised her hands. I motion to establish Clause M, the matron's right of refusal. Gasps, mutters. Even the singing chair burped. A second elder stood, then a third, then a moss creature from Sector Y-13. Each raised a voice in support.